My desk is covered in, like, you probably can't see that, there's loads of bits of clay all over it, which is quite fun. Had a little arts and crafts day yesterday. Good morning everybody, welcome back to the Morning Bible. Wonderful to have you. We are kicking off the beginning of this week with a new chapter, which is exciting. We are on to Luke chapter 12. Let's go. Let's just get straight into it. Luke chapter 12 from verse 1. So, it says, "In the meantime, when so many thousands of people had gathered around that they were trampling one another, Jesus began to say to his disciples first." So, the crowd's getting bigger, essentially. Jesus is continuing on. It says, "in the meantime." That doesn't really give us like a specific time, really. It just kind of means around the time that chapter 11 was kind of finishing. In the meantime, Jesus is going on and doing this. When so many thousands of people are gathered, Jesus has got a huge crowd now, thousands of people following him, which is, try to picture thousands of people today, like that's a lot of people, a lot of people, and they're all following him now. So Jesus has got this really big crowd going, he's making a big stir. They were all starting to trample over one another, there were that many of them. Jesus began to say to his disciples first. So Jesus directs this specific message to his disciples before addressing the rest of the crowd. He says, "Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Therefore, whatever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in private rooms shall be proclaimed on the housetops." So, what is, right from the beginning, what's the leaven of the Pharisees? Well, I always kind of vaguely knew what leaven was, but I didn't know specifically. So I looked up this morning, and my specific findings were essentially my vague sort of understanding of it before, where it's essentially like yeast. If you make bread, you can have unleavened bread, which is bread that hasn't got like a yeast or a rising agent in it, which means there won't be air pockets, it won't sort of rise, it won't expand, it won't be full of air, it will be very dense and very flat. That's like unleavened bread. And so if you leaven bread, you put in yeast or like a rising agent, baking soda, whatever, and it will create those air pockets, and also, it will expand, it will grow, it will get lighter, easier to eat. And so leaven essentially just means like yeast. It doesn't mean one specific kind of rising agent, it's just a general term for kind of a rising agent that you use in bread. So what does Jesus mean, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees? What does he mean, beware of that? So essentially, leaven has sort of a dual meaning as well, of lightening a load, because you picture it with bread, you've got very dense bread in the first place. If you put leaven in it, then it will get more air in it, it will become larger, it will be the same weight, but it will be larger, so it will be less dense, so it will kind of feel lighter. And so it's kind of to do with lightening the load. And so the leaven of the Pharisees kind of feeds into both of those images, where the leaven is essentially talking about their teachings, what they're giving to you. The leaven that they're providing with you, is it causing you to rise? Is it causing you to sort of get this air to grow, to lighten the burdens you're carrying? It's all these kind of various imagery. Leaven's been used throughout the Bible to kind of mean various different things, and that's sort of one of the big ones is someone's teachings. Is it a leaven for you? Is it sort of that key ingredient in your bread dough that's causing you to sort of rise and expand and grow? And so Jesus is saying, beware of the teachings of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. He calls out the leaven as specifically being hypocrisy. So essentially my Bible notes have it saying, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Leaven here is being used as a metaphor for self-centered, hypocritical approaches of the Pharisees. So Jesus is saying, look, these are the guys who teach the law, but they don't follow it themselves. And so their leaven is hypocrisy. Their teachings are hypocritical. They're self-centered in their attitudes. Jesus goes on to say, like, they're not getting away with that, essentially. He says, nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Therefore, whatever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in private rooms shall be proclaimed on the housetops. So, Jesus here is saying, look, it's quite simple. the things that you keep in the dark, things that you hide away, those things will be made known. God sees those things, and those things are just as real as the things that you do publicly, the things that everyone sees. And so don't think just because you're sinning in like a back room where no one can see you, where you're getting away with it, when no one's catching you, don't think that that means it's not a problem anymore. There's sort of this, what is it? It's like a cultural like meme that's going around in society. And when I say meme, I don't mean like internet memes. I mean like meme in the traditional sense of like a repeated sort of teaching or mantra that people give. That it's the idea that you can do what you want as long as you're not hurting people. This passage undermines that distinctly, because it's saying the things that you do in the dark, the things that you're hiding away that aren't hurting people because no one's seeing it, those things will be brought into the light just as much as the things that you do publicly. And so it's kind of a reassurance for us. It's a reassurance that God brings judgment on the things that are bad. Just because someone gets away with murder, for example, doesn't mean that they're not going to be judged, that isn't going to be brought into the light, that justice isn't going to be dispensed for that one day, because it's saying that it will. But also on the flip side, there are good things that come out of that. It's saying, look, the things that are done in the dark will be brought to the light. And so there are things that you can do, good acts that you can do that people won't see, that will be brought into the light as well. You know, if you work really hard to help a friend and the friend never knows about it, never sees it, for example, that will be brought into the light as well. And you don't need to sort of work for your own self-satisfaction or for public, like public approval. Your good actions will be brought into the light. The things that you've whispered in private rooms shall be proclaimed on the housetops. So it's a warning. It's saying, look, the things that you think you're saying quietly, the things that you don't want certain people to hear, the things that you're trying to keep away from certain people, the things you're maybe not so proud of saying, those things will be proclaimed on the housetops. Back in the day, everyone lived in houses with flat roofs, and so people would live on the roof of their house as much as inside their house. It was kind of like a social space, being up on the roof of your house. You'd have a beautiful view, and people could see you and people could hear you if you were shouting from up there. And so proclaimed from the housetops means, look, the things that you whispered sort of downstairs in the cellar of your house, those things, it's the equivalent of standing on the roof of your house and shouting them out for all of your neighbours, everyone around you to hear. And so God is sort of warning us, Jesus is warning us of the final judgment that's coming, but he's also encouraging us. It's saying, look, the things that are hidden will be made known. Nothing is covered up that will not be revealed. So all the mysteries, all the things that we don't understand, those things will be made known. God's plan will become clear. And so all the confusion that we can have at times, all the times that we feel like we're, working away, trying to do good things, but it's all fruitless, no one's seeing it, no one's appreciating it, that's not the case forever. That's not how it's always going to be. So yeah, it's a warning of a passage for sure. Like, I'm not going to shy away from that. It's definitely a warning, saying because it starts off being directed at the Pharisees. It's saying, look, these Pharisees get away with all these things, they do all these things in hiding, their hearts are this corrupt. But it's also a promise of judgment. It's a promise that things will be made right, that the bad things that people have got away with, they won't get away with in the long run, and the good things that you do that aren't seen will be seen and will be rewarded. And we'll get to know what God's plan is. There's sort of a lot of layers to this promise, but it's a really good promise. So yeah, it's a good passage today. It's a much shorter one than yesterday, which is good. Yesterday's one was brilliant, but man, there was so much in there. I was just sort of talking. So we'll leave this one here today. Thank you very much for watching. Start of a brand new week, so I hope it's a good week for you. Yeah, stay safe, all the rest of it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.